December the 18th, 2025. Welcome back to the Two Witnesses Live. I'm your host, Watchful, and it's that time once again for your daily Torment report. Not a whole lot to report on today. Both of our guys pretty mellow on the reporting, although some very interesting news. So let's get into it. Trump reclassified marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 drug today. We're going to look at that video. Fury says, wonder if that was censored. Maybe I should have said Trump reclassified MJ. No, it's probably marijuana. Let's see. Or I wonder if Mary Jane would have passed muster. Yeah, so that's going to open up a lot of doors for research and cancer patients and people with chronic pain. I know I have my elders in my family would benefit greatly from it. So this is a pretty good thing. We'll watch that executive order signing when we're done with his post. So let's get into what it is that he posted today. So this is where we left off yesterday, unreasonable search and seizure. This is also the one that he pinned to the top of his post. So just for a refresher.
All right, another bombshell revelation today shows just how weaponized the DOJ was under Joe Biden. Now, shocking new memos turned over to Congress today, revealed that the FBI warned the DOJ repeatedly they did not have probable cause for that raid at Mar-a-Lago. But under pressure from Biden's weaponized DOJ, they conducted the raid anyway. Among the shocking revelations, including one email revealing the FBI field office did not believe and articulated this to the DOJ. They had, quote, established probable cause for the search warrant for classified records at Mar-a-Lago. Despite this, another agent wrote, quote, DOJ has opined that they do have probable cause, requesting a wide scope, including residence, office, storage space. One official even warned that the information they had was just from a single source, not corroborated, and may have even been dated. Earlier today, on a post on X, FBI Director Kash Patel did confirm the documents, writing in part, quote, we just turned over documents to Capitol Hill to be made public, showing that the FBI told DOJ that they did not have probable cause for raiding President Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago, but DOJ didn't give a damn. They did it anyway. Here with the very latest, justthenews.com founder, editor-in-chief, and chief investigative reporter, John Solomon. And remember, John, the FBI had access that was given to them by President Trump and his team, open access to the Mar-a-Lago. After they left, they called and said, by the way, would you put another lock on one particular storage room? They complied. Nothing would have prevented them from coming back anytime they wanted, but no probable cause?
Yeah, well, that's what these emails show. First, they show that the Trump administration or the Trump team and his lawyer were cooperating. And in fact, the FBI wanted to leverage that cooperation and create a amicable solution that didn't involve a raid. The Justice Department said they weren't interested in making accommodations like that. Then the FBI told the Justice Department, the Biden Justice Department, that it didn't have probable cause, that the information they had was outdated, single source, couldn't be corroborated. They didn't have true evidence that President Trump himself may have been the source of a crime. And the Justice Department said, we disagree. We're going to go ahead with it. The FBI continued to fight back, saying, we don't think there's probable cause. You certainly can't go to President Trump's office, or you certainly can't go to his bedroom and do it. And the Justice Department response was, you know what, we're going to expand the search. What you see here is a potential Fourth Amendment violation of President Trump's civil liberties. And this is significant, not just from a historical standpoint. A couple of weeks ago, Sean, I interviewed the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, and that's Harmeet Dillon. And she said she is looking at the possibility of bringing criminal charges from anyone who tried to deny President Trump or one of President Trump's supporters their civil rights. That means this evidence, which, by the way, is still in the statute of 5 years, could potentially be prosecutable, or certainly go to the question of whether there should be a prosecution separately. And President Trump has shown he's not afraid to sue. I just asked the BBC, who found out that this week again. President Trump might have a very good suit, according to the legal experts I talked, that his civil liberties were infringed by the Justice Department. So this revelation is not just a historical or political revelation. It could have legal consequences.
No probable cause.
Hope
If
it
that's
does.
not a dual justice system, considering Hillary and Joe Biden, I don't know what is. And, you know, I remember reading something and learning something called unreasonable search and seizure. John Solomon, great reporting. Thank you.
There you go. Of course, Donald Trump responds with unreasonable search and seizure! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. That was the FBI's criminal raid on Mar-a-Lago. This can never be allowed to happen again. Ugh. It's treason and election interference. That's not what he said. This guy Joe said that. Let's see. Don't you agree that it's way past time to arrest Biden AG Merrick Garland for lawfare and election interference? 100%. That's all right. How much longer, Lord, until justice is brought upon those who do evil upon the earth? Not much longer. Not much longer. Someone should be arrested. Ray and Garland, according to Jay Anthony. And Donald Trump responded, and many others. Donald Trump said, why did Brown University have so few security cameras? There can be no excuse for that in the modern age. It just doesn't get worse. President DJT. All right, we got a big old blurb here. Raphael Warnock was on Meet the Fake Press. Meet the Fake Press with a one-sided and very biased Kristen Welker as the hostess. Warnock spent the entire show using religion to try and divide the country. I feel like we read this yesterday. If a Republican, and particularly me, made those statements, it would be front page news. He ended by saying that he was going to his church to preach now. We did read this yesterday. And while I think that's fine, I do say, whatever happened to separation of church and state? That would be the first thing they would use against us. Actually, it's something that never much bothered me. Anyway, Warnock is a lightweight whose wife correctly states that he tried to run her over with a car. Fortunately, she was able to get out of the way and almost lost her foot. Warnock is a bad guy. And NBC News, which is second only to ABC fake news for being the worst, should be ashamed of themselves in allowing garbage interviews with untalented and uncaring people to take place. The public airwaves, which these networks are using at no charge, should not be allowed to get away with this any longer. They should be properly licensed and pay significant amounts of money for using this very valuable public space. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Or just taken off the air altogether because we don't want them. We don't want to listen to them. You know, they spent so long canceling us. Why can't we cancel a couple of them? I don't know. Paul LePage will be a tremendous congressman for the amazing people of Maine's 2nd Congressional District, just as he was as your governor. All right. He's endorsing people. I don't like to read the endorsements. If you live in this area and you're considering, you want to know who President Trump is endorsing, here you go. All right, it is my great honor to endorse Kevin Lincoln, who is running to represent the incredible people of California's 13th Congressional District. I am proud once again to endorse the great congressman from Tennessee, 7th Congressional District, Matt Van Epps. I strongly campaigned with Matt to defeat the radical left in 2025 special election, and it is my honor to support his 2026 re-election. Congressman Tony Gonzalez is a terrific representative for the wonderful people of Texas's 23rd Congressional District. It is my great honor to endorse America First Patriot Eric Flores, who is running to represent the wonderful people of Texas's 34th Congressional District. And this is probably the last one. It is my great honor to endorse Mega Warrior Chris Gober, who is running to represent the wonderful people of Texas's 10th Congressional District. And here you go. This is the same video we just watched. He's got that pinned to the top about unreasonable search and seizure. But wait, there's more. Let's have a look at his signing of this monumental shift and reclassifying good old MJ so that it's more accessible to help people.
I bet the pilots are pretty amazing. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right.
Thank you very much. Well, this is a big day in many reasons, really for many reasons, and I have a very distinguished group of people behind me, mostly medical people and brilliant people, and they really know what they're doing. And I just want to thank them. They truly gave their lives in terms of the time and all of the incredible work they've done over the years in arriving at the position they have now. Most respected people in the country. Today I'm pleased to announce that I will be signing an executive order to reschedule marijuana from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3 controlled substance with legitimate medical uses. We have people begging for me to do this, people that are in great pain. For decades, this action has been requested by American patients suffering from extreme pain, incurable diseases, aggressive cancers, seizure disorders, neurological problems, and more, including numerous veterans with service-related injuries and older Americans who live with chronic medical problems that severely degrade their quality of life. And it's so really, I mean, just,
dude,
I can't tell you, I think I probably have received.
Somebody at the White House keeps tapping or shaking the freaking microphone, and it's like echoing in my ear. Do you guys hear that? I don't know if you guys hear that, but it's just like thunder in my ears. Super annoying. Not me, it's them.
More phone calls on this, on doing what we're doing. I don't think I received any calls on the other side of it, but hopefully this reclassification, which by the way polls at 82%, will help many of those patients live a far better life. We're joined today by Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's doing a fantastic job, Administrator of Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, the FDA Commissioner, Dr. Marty McCary, Director of the National Institutes of Health, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, and the Director of the National Institute on Drug Abuse, Dr. Nora Valkow, as well as Dr. Ilana Braun from the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, Duke University's Dr. David Casseret, the National Commander of the American Legion, Dan Wiley, and my friend Howard Kessler. Howard, how are you feeling?
Great.
I'm telling you, he looks better than he did 20 years ago. But I don't want to go through what you went through to get there.
Okay.
Right? But it looks like you're doing great. I'm proud of you. I want to emphasize that the order I am about to sign is not the legalization, or it doesn't legalize marijuana in any way, shape, or form, and in no way sanctions its use as a recreational drug. It has nothing to do with it. Just as the prescription painkillers may have legitimate.
So did you hear that? I don't know if you guys catch that. It's very distracting. Whoever's playing around with the microphone, it sounds like they're using it for a hockey stick. It in no way legalizes marijuana as a recreational drug, even though many states have legalized marijuana as a recreational drug. I know because there's probably a dozen pot shops within 10 miles of my house. So yeah, I don't know what game they're playing, but I do know that from changing it from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3, it puts it on par with something like Tylenol with codeine, and it also opens up a lot of research, because previously you weren't, because it was a Schedule 1 narcotic at the federal level. It was very limiting on what they were able to do with research and prescription. So this puts it down at the level to where it can be prescribed, it can be legal, and so everything's, good across the board, I guess.
It uses, but can also do irreversible damage and never, if you look at some of the damage that can be caused, wreck lives. And
it can wreck lives. Yeah, so my previous partner used this drug quite a lot. And I'm not going to say names. I don't like throwing people under the bus, but I've given the opportunity to those who use this recreationally to prove that it doesn't destroy lives. And I've only ever seen it when it's used recreationally destroy lives. My previous partner, for whatever reason, I have no idea, but I do know that, at one point in time, he had a happy, healthy family. When he started to partake of the devil's lettuce, he no longer has that happy, healthy family and is seeking his fulfillment in other places and in other ways. We'll just leave it at that. And he looks high a lot, probably because he is. Also, I've had family members who, said that they microdosed and that it was for pain. One of them was a MMC fighter. Actually, two of them. I can't tell you the name because that would probably give away too much personal information, but I have famous family members who are into fighting. And, the more that they partake of, marijuana recreationally, the more it affects every aspect of their lives. It makes it hard for them to think. It makes it hard for them to work. It's very, they may say it's not addicting, but I've seen otherwise. So I completely agree that it should not be used recreationally. And I know that that's, given where we are in the world today, to where it's legal in most states, that's probably not a popular thing to say. But I will also say that at the same time, I have seen it bring tremendous relief to those who truly need it. And I think that it's a case-by-case thing, that it needs to be applied as needed and not as a recreational. And that's the same for even alcohol. I mean, it's just like somebody who's drunk all the time. That's a problem. You know what I mean? That's going to ruin your life. So, same thing. Marijuana probably shouldn't be used recreationally.
If it's abused, it's never safe to use powerful controlled substances in recreational manners, and especially in this case, if you take a look, illegal and unregulated drugs, very, very bad thing.
I don't really have a lot of experience with pain. I can't speak to those. And that's kind of what I'm saying, is those who truly need it. It's one thing, but my experience is those who, I'm speaking specifically to using it recreationally. Those that I've seen who use it for recreational purposes, such as my previous partner, it destroys it. It's addictive. They're usually substituting. They're using it to avoid responsibility or avoid dealing with life. I'm more of a take pain head on, in that take tough situations head on rather than. And the same goes for alcohol. I've seen people deal with alcohol too, where they'll drink themselves silly so they don't have to deal with, fixing a relationship, because relationships are hard.
So I've always told my children, don't take drugs, no drinking, no smoking, and just stay away from drugs. I have been, they would look at me and they said, Dad, would you stop saying that? I would say it every time I looked at it practically. Young Americans are especially at risk, so unless a drug is recommended by a doctor for medical reasons, just don't do it. At the same time, the facts compel the federal government to recognize that marijuana can be legitimate in terms of medical applications when carefully administered in some cases. This may include the use as a substitute for addictive and potentially lethal opioid painkillers, and they cause tremendous problems. This can do it in a much lesser way, can make people feel much better that are living through tremendous pain and problems. 40 states and multiple U.S. territories have already recognized the use of medical marijuana. This reclassification order will make it far easier to conduct marijuana-related medical research, allowing us to study benefits, potential dangers, and future treatments. It's going to have a tremendously positive impact, I believe. We're also asking Congress to
I didn't show the video. If I can find the link to it, I'll play it. But there was a recent breakthrough with DMT and rabies of all things, to where they were able to modify rabies, remove the deadly part, and when combined with, I think it was DMT, they're able to actually target specific parts of the brain. And because the rabies can get past the blood-brain barrier, it's what makes it so deadly. But when combined with a particular molecule from DMT, they're able to actually target particular sections of the brain and repair damaged sections of the brain. They've done something similar with different types of mushrooms to heal people from things like PTSD. This takes it to the next level. I'll see if I can't find that video.
Consider its classification of hemp-derived CBD to ensure seniors can access CBD products they have found beneficial for pain and other reasons. Some people are literally dying, and dying with tremendous pain, and this can, in many cases, literally stop it. And they have their senses about them, as opposed to painkillers, which don't allow them to die with dignity, frankly. I promise to be the president of common sense, and that is exactly what we're doing. This is really something having to do with common sense. And it's something having to do with the fact that so many people that I respect ask me to do it. People that are having problems, big problems. They are having big problems with illness, with cancer in particular. I now want to ask Dr. Oz to say a few words, followed by Dr. Braun, Dr. Casseret, Dan Wiley, and Dr. Valcow. And we'll sign the order as soon as they're complete, and we'll take some questions. Please, go ahead.
Mr. President, thank you for always bravely pushing for common sense change, as you call it. So President Trump, Secretary Kennedy have been pushing for change. They're passionate in their desire to help the American people, and they have relentlessly pursued this agenda throughout this administration. This also includes a deep passion for research, gold standard research, as Secretary Kennedy also says. But there's another side to the president that often isn't reflected in media reports, and that's the deep passion he has for the people in his life. And he has called me frequently about the people who are calling him, as he alluded to, who are saying that they've got problems and they got relief from some of the solutions we're talking about today. Howard Kessler, who's standing behind me here, who's a mutual friend of ours, was an early caller of the president. Many others have ever reached out as well. And Howard's been a passionate advocate for avoiding narcotics, especially in seniors, and particularly seniors suffering from cancer. And that's a population that is a very important one. And it's a sympathetic population that's desirous of trying new ways besides some of the conventional approaches that have been tested by pharmaceutical companies but have untoward side effects. At the beginning of the year, one of the first things the president told me, he doesn't actually tell you, he demanded from me, that my agency, CMS...
Nobody demands from him. No. Nobody. You have to know him.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Use the whole tools at his wherewithal to find a better way to help seniors. A passion for a population that has gotten left behind with these discussions. I promised that we would find an answer, even though it had not been done before. And today we are delivering on that promise. Today, our Innovation Center at CMS is announcing a new model and additional actions to give seniors access to cannabinoids. These are CBDs. They're non-addictive, which many are already using to manage pain. There's some clinical evidence that's showing that CBDs provide relief from common conditions that affect Americans, including cancer symptoms and chronic pain and a slew of other problems that affect disproportionately seniors and our veterans. And 6 in 10 people who use the CBDs report that they improve their pain. I think all of those people are calling the president, judged on the number of calls in support of what we're doing today. And sometimes these decisions are difficult, and there's a reason this hasn't happened before, and there's a reason, Mr. President, that every president before you has whiffed on this issue. It's tough. And I know there's going to be a lot of discussion about it. That's why we're so passionate about making it clear that this patchwork that we're working within now, the laws and regulations, they're leaving patients and doctors without adequate guidance on the safeguards of how to use these products, even though they're still being used. At Medicare, we cover 68 million Americans, including people under the age of 65. And they did not have a way of providing these treatments until today. With the president's insistence, That's all changes. The Innovation Center models are going to allow millions of Americans on Medicare to become eligible to receive CBD as early as April of next year, and at no charge, if their doctors recommend them. Thanks to the hard work of the entire CMS team, especially Abe Sutton and Gita Dio at the
No charge. That's cool.
Innovation Center, the accountable care organizations in this country working in Medicare will be able to provide these products, again, at no cost to patients. Medicare Advantage insurers, and we've been calling them, are also agreeing to consider CBD to be used for the 34 million Americans that they cover. If you can hear my voice and you're over 65, you should pay attention to this executive order because it's going to touch your life. Again, this all becomes active after the first quarter of next year. These CBD products must first meet local and state quality and safety standards. They must come from legitimate sources, and they must abide by other regulations of those states. With these boxes checked, patients can be eligible for up to $500 of hemp-derived products each year. This is the first government-led testing of quality and outcomes for patients across different conditions, and it delivers on the need for more data collection and research into hemp usage. CMS is going to collect data, that's our job, on the patients that are being given these products by their physicians. And in accordance with all the privacy and security regulations, we're going to analyze that data. We're going to make it publicly available to everybody to be able to analyze with us. If it shows promise, we will expand access to these products to even more conditions amongst Medicare and Medicaid beneficiaries. I want to thank not just the Secretary, but Marty McCary. We want a lot of companies who are doing this research that approach the FDA for formal approval. That is the right way to move forward. And Jay Bhattacharya, who's hiding in the back, he rarely hides, but Jay runs NIH, and he's agreed to support initiatives to study the data that we're collecting. Howard Kester, God bless you for being a pain in our sides. Mr. President, he's promised to stop calling you. But on this issue, he'll call you on other issues. And I thank you again from the bottom of my heart for taking a difficult stance.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Mr. President, members of the Cabinet, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and for your leadership in rescheduling cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3.
Background noise.
This decision will accelerate scientific research and expand what can responsibly be studied. I'm a cancer psychiatrist and medical cannabis researcher at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. Over the past decade, federal investment in research has helped transform cancer care. People are living longer than ever before. But cancer care is not only about treating the tumor, it's also about addressing the anxiety, the fear, the stress that can come with a diagnosis, symptoms that can interfere with treatment and make recovery much more difficult. Many medications we use for acute anxiety carry significant risks, particularly in the older adults. That's why we're studying specific natural compounds found in cannabis, including the non-addictive cannabidiol, to understand whether they can safely and effectively help manage anxiety during cancer treatment. Rescheduling allows us to ask these questions rigorously about dosing, about safety, and who may benefit most. This research reflects the best of federal investment, helping people not only live longer, but live better. Thank you, Mr. President, for supporting careful, science-based research that puts patients first.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug. That's beautiful. Thank you.
I'll add my vote of thanks, Mr. President. I never really thought this day would come. I met a patient about 20 years ago, a retired professor named Elizabeth, who came to my clinic. She was dying of pancreatic cancer, and she asked me...
All right, I can't handle that booming in my ears. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I think we kind of get the point. They're, talking about the benefits of cannabis and CBD oil, and especially in regards to cancer patients, people in pain. If you're over 65, it sounds like there's a $500 benefit that can be used towards cannabis and CBD products, which I think is fantastic. If you're over 65 and you're retired and it's not going to destroy your life, it's just going to bring, relief. That's one thing. What I'm talking about is like somebody who's 24 years old who's using it because they think they need it for pain management, when really all they're doing is they're just trying to escape the hardship of not going out and getting a job. That's a problem. Or a 40-year-old man who has a wife and several kids, who's having a hard time dealing with pressure and stress and communication and stuff like that, that just wants to escape the mental kind of pain. Those are the kind of situations I don't think that people should be using it, but unfortunately they do. And also, like Fury was saying in the chat, the Bible does not condone drunkenness, and in fact tends to lump people who are often drunk into a category all of their own in not a very positive manner. Usually in conjunction with weeping and gnashing of teeth. I'm thinking of Matthew 24, where he talks about those who get tired of waiting and start eating and drinking with the drunkards. Not a good thing. So, but that's not what this is. This seems like a step in the right direction. I can appreciate this. I know I have my grandmother in particular who has cancer, who overcame cancer and is dealing with the side effects will benefit greatly from this. Let's move on. I did find that other video, and I believe this is from Chase Hughes.
Something massive.
Which I really like Chase Hughes. So he was a brainwashing expert with the CIA. He deals with brain problems himself. He has severe seizures and memory problems, and he is on a particular regimen which makes him normal and sane and able to operate. He makes that list freely available. If you're interested in it, let me know. But this is a recent breakthrough that I think is really interesting, kind of along the same lines that something I've been wanting to bring up on the show. Let's listen to this.
Just happened in neuroscience that should not be possible. These researchers took the deadliest virus on the planet. Then they rewired this thing and they used it to watch psilocybin, which is magic mushrooms, physically repair the brain in real time, all the way down to the exact neurons that are involved. What they discovered in this study changes everything that we thought we knew about consciousness and identity and trauma and even who you are as a human being. So if you ever wondered how one psychedelic experience can change somebody's life, you're about to see the actual mechanism right here. And I don't say this as a metaphor because I know that neuroplasticity is a buzzword now. What I'm talking about is programmable rewiring captured with a legitimately weaponized virus, and the implications are unbelievably staggering. So stay with me, because the breakthrough isn't just what psilocybin does in the brain, it's how we can actually physically control what it's doing in the brain. The last part of this video might be the most astonishing thing that you've ever heard about the human mind. So let me start with the part that feels like science fiction, but it's not. Since 2021, we've known that psilocybin grows new connections between neurons. Thousands and thousands, millions of them. They last weeks, and some of them are permanent. But there was a big problem with that. It's that nobody knew where specifically those connections actually went and what happened. So we basically knew that the brain grows these new little roadways, but we have no idea which cities these roads are connecting. And this is where Cornell and the Allen Institute did something almost unthinkable. They turned to rabies. Yes, the weird thing that makes dogs foam at the mouth and bite people and stuff. The rabies virus naturally travels backwards through your nervous system. So it jumps from one neuron and then into every neuron that sends signals to that neuron, and then into every neuron upstream of all of those. It's the ultimate retrograde neuron tracking system. But it's also the deadliest pathogen that we know. So scientists engineered a version of this rabies that only jumps one neuron at a time. And they deleted the gene that enables lethal replication. And they added this little green, actually green, fluorescent marker to it. And they turned this most deadly virus in the world into a biological neon green highlighter. So it's a virus that kills, and it's now just getting used in this experiment to just highlight and light up the circuitry of physiological and psychological healing within the nervous system. So this is exactly where everything totally changes. Let's talk about the actual study here. On day one, they injected what they called a helper virus into the frontal cortex of these mice to prime these very super specific neurons first. And that incubated for about 13 days. And on day 14, one of these groups received psilocybin. The other group just got some regular saline. On day 16, they injected this modified rabies virus with the green highlighter in it into the exact same brain region. On day 21, the virus had spread backward, just one synapse, one neuron. Then the brains were harvested from the mice, and this is where it gets totally wild. They used something called light sheet microscopy, where it's just a ton of little super thin slices, unimaginably thin. And then they photograph every slice of each mouse brain. These are millions and millions of images. And then they counted every green highlighter neuron. And this is over 500,000 inputs per brain that they scanned. And each one of these things was mapped to its exact location across 316 brain regions. This was the first complete map of psilocybin and how it rewires the human brain that's ever been done in history. The results we thought were going to be random. We'd expect them to be pretty chaotic, and they were not at all. So the rewiring followed a pattern so statistically improbable. This value in the study is listed as P equals 0.00006. That's the odds of it happening by chance. So something very, very specific was happening in the brain. So the connections that got stronger, up to 10%, plus 10%, they were all sensory, and 10% is a massive deal. And the sensory parts were the primary somatosensory cortex, the primary visual cortex, the motor cortex, the retrosplenial cortex, and this is where we have like spatial memory, where we are in space. So in other words, psilocybin strengthens your connection to the external world. The world feels more vivid on psilocybin because your brain is literally wiring itself back into the world because those neurons are active. And then there's some connections that got weaker in the study, and they weakened by a full 15%. This is massive. And this is all in regions that build our internal narrative of who we are. And the first one is the infralimbic area. And this is down in the limbic system area. But this is where we have some fear responses. And then we have this little tiny piece of the brain called the insula. This is where we have anxiety, threat detection, stuff like that. Then we have the hippocampus. This was reduced. Memory is what the hippocampus does. Then we have the amygdala. This is our emotional center. And this other part of the brain called the orbitofrontal cortex. And this is where we sit and ruminate about stuff, or we expect something. We have some kind of expectations in our life. So let me put that in plain English for you. Psilocybin temporarily quiets the brain regions that generate you as a human being. All your fears, your memories, our little self-referential loops. The default mode network is the engine of depression. And that goes quiet as well. It loses its grip completely. And this is why people say the world feels new, because it literally is making a new world for you. But there is one part of this study that nobody expected. These researchers decide to silence just one brain region during the psilocybin session. So they chemically shut this brain region down. So the silenced region did not get rewired, but every other active region did. And this is massive. So the wiring is not random at all. It's very context dependent, it's experience dependent, and it is programmable. So essentially what they're saying here in the study is we've proven that when your brain grows, you become what you pay attention to. And that means something pretty extraordinary, and actually, I think, extremely dangerous. Because if you know for a fact which pathways are going to be active, then you can like science fiction, but it's not.
I was meant to pause it.
The silenced
There you go. I remember now the reason why I wanted to show this to you guys is because I think it deals directly with the mark of the beast and what we've been talking about with the man of sin, the son of perdition. How I'm of the opinion that is a doctrine or a belief, because when you're sealed in the forehead, hermeneutics in the Bible suggests that is a doctrine or a belief. It's the forehead refers to, that's the belief center of what you believe, and this is what he's proving is in your forehead. That's what you believe. It makes you who you are, and it's very important what you believe. So if you believe something that is wrong, it's going to shape your world, and you're going to be in error. And that's why it's so important to be very careful who you're sealed to, who your God is. So when we're looking at the mark of the beast, doesn't matter what the mark of the beast is. We know what the mark of the 144,000 is, and that's what you should be making as your belief system. Their mark of the beast is they have the name of the Lamb's father in their foreheads. That's who you should be sealed to. The Lamb's father. And that's who Jesus always pointed people to. He always made a point to say that the Father was greater than he was. He always made a point to say that no man comes to the Father but by him.
Did not get.
It's that's who you want. That's who you want to be central to your world and how you want your brain wired. Because once you're sealed to something else, you may need this drug, and I don't know if that's an option.
Get
rewired,
but every other active region did, and this is massive. So the wiring is not random at all. It's very context dependent, it's experience dependent, and it is programmable. So essentially what they're saying here in the study is we've proven that when your brain grows, you become what you pay attention to, and that means something pretty extraordinary, and actually I think extremely dangerous. Because if you know for a fact which pathways are going to be active, then you can choose which pathways are going to get strengthened. And if you can silence the ones that cause fear and rumination and anxiety and trauma, you can weaken them big time. So we now know that if you want to strengthen your visual processing, you can show visual stimuli during the session. If you want to reduce anxiety loops, you can quiet down the insula or the amygdala during peak plasticity moments. If you want to reshape an entire human identity, you can guide someone's attention into new self-models while the old ones are offline. Right now, we are crossing a massive threshold, a huge threshold in neuroscience, maybe the biggest one ever. So for the first time in the history of neuroscience, we're not just watching a brain go through some changes. We can now watch what the brain is becoming. So this discovery shows us something that I think is pretty damn beautiful. Our brains, our mind, is not fixed. It's extremely evolving and dynamic, and we're witnessing our brain's ability to essentially rewire itself. And now we can see and then edit the script of that rewiring. So you might think this is maybe it's a therapy breakthrough, or maybe it's all about trauma and depression. But this is the first time in science we've identified the exact circuits that change during a transformative experience like this. We are seeing the real-life blueprint of what's going on when we read these stories about how somebody's healed in a single session, or PTSD just kind of disappears. And we're seeing all of that neuron by neuron. So once you can see all of that circuitry, now you can design it. And that's the dangerous part, because this also means identity. This thing that I call Chase, the thing that you call you, is not a constant. Identity is a product of whatever networks are active. And those networks can now be turned up or turned down. This is your personality, memories, reactions, fears, all of that. They're not as permanent as they feel. And I think that truth is a double-edged sword. It's liberating, but it's extremely unsettling for some people. And here's what I think this truly means as a whole. Whoever controls your attention during a psychedelic window, they control what gets strengthened, they control what gets weakened, and they control which version of you comes out on the other end of that experience. So this is a discovery with the power to heal millions and millions of people. It's also the power to manipulate them. So I think we are entering an era, just with this study being published, where consciousness itself can be pretty much engineered. But I think the most astonishing and beautiful part about this is that the breakthrough doesn't just show us how psilocybin changes the human brain. This shows us that consciousness may not be a static property at all. In this study, for the first time, we can see real code in all of that stuff. And once you see it, you're not going to unsee it. So if you want to understand the next layer, why the brain relaxes its grip on reality during these states and how your predictive model shapes everything that you experience, watch the next few videos that we have coming out this week and next week, because once you understand the brain's prediction engine, everything about this breakthrough gets even more weird. If you're into this study, you want to look into it, I'll put a link down in the description underneath this video. So this is a huge deal. This is a massive discovery for neuroscience, and I appreciate you hanging out with me for a bit. Please
There you go. I thought you guys would appreciate that, because it has very real implications with consciousness, the mark of the beast, and being sealed. I don't know if this is going to be used with the mark of the beast, but I think that it proves that what you expose yourself to and what you confess and what you truly believe in your heart shapes who you are. And God has given us very clear commands on what we should be exposing ourselves to and what we should be avoiding. Hence the 10 commandments, and really the other commandments in the scripture is, God has given us, lots of instructions for things that will benefit our lives. Like, who knew fasting was a thing? I mean, fasting is like super mainstream now, and all the healing benefits of fasting. And, that wasn't always common knowledge. People thought that was just some religious activity and that you were starving yourself. Well, it turns out that by turning off the digestive system, it actually allows your body to heal itself in ways that it's not possible to heal while it's busy processing nutrients. So anyway, let's move on to Elon Musk and see what he had to say today. So let's see. Right side. All right, I think we left off here. So this was posted 19 hours ago from Matthew Schmitz, beginning in 2014. Prestige Industries decided they urgently needed to diversify. They didn't purge established boomers. Instead, they did everything possible to avoid hiring white millennial men. This is the story of a generation derailed by DEI. Elon Musk responded, "A great wrong was done." Yeah. What's interesting is God knew all of this. He communicated it to his son, who communicated it to John, who wrote it down, and we get the benefit of seeing this stuff come to pass. It may seem random to some, and not make sense to many, but to those who look to God, look to the Father, look to the Creator, trust in His Son, we have a heads up on some of this stuff. We can see the trouble and hide ourselves and overcome. If IQ were really, so this is from Hitch Slap, if IQ were really just a number, then we should see some 90 IQ physicists. The fact that we don't should tell you everything. Think about it. Yeah, it's a rigged system. Congrats to the entire SpaceX team for achieving 165 launches while we were originally set for 170. We actually revised the manifest to 165 this summer based on business and manifest needs. We have 2 more Falcon launches to go in 2025 for extra credit for a total of 167. Great work. Great work, team. All right, more Grok news. We'll go ahead and read the Grok stuff. He didn't post a whole lot, so we're not going to be here. We'll probably be done here in the next 25 minutes or so. So we might as well read the Grok news today. So this is from the XAI team. Today, we are excited to launch Grok Voice Agent API, empowering developers to build voice agents that speak dozens of languages, call tools, and search real-time data. Ooh, fun. Fun. I've been trying to figure out how to automate more of my life to free up time and get more done. I hope I can use that. I want to be able to just like tell my computer to go, go review all of my emails, get rid of all the spam, and read to me the important emails. Wouldn't that be cool? I think that'd be cool. We're getting very close to being able to do that. We probably can. There's probably some service or app that does it, but looking forward to that. 14 trillion and counting. The case against the NGO status quo. The Federal Reserve recently disclosed a figure that should stop any serious observer of American public life in his tracks. As of Q2 2025, U.S. NGOs hold 14.12 trillion in assets. Amuse, so this was reposted by Elon Musk. Amuse responded, lawfare. Over 90% of the lawsuits against the federal government and the Trump administration have been brought by or financed by NGOs, non-government organizations. With 14 trillion in assets, they can certainly afford it. Why should taxpayers be subsidizing sustained lawfare? Agreed. Where do I sign up to withdraw my consent for them to use my tax dollars to do this? I'd like to sign that form. Thank you very much. The first Starship Mars will be named Heart of Gold. Oh, I like that. That's from Doge Designer. All right, 14 trillion NGO empire, tax exempt, voter proof. An essay citing Federal Reserve financial accounts says U.S. NGOs held 14.12 trillion in assets in Q2 2025, which is bigger than the combined 2025 GDP of Japan, Germany, and India by roughly 5%. If your brain just tried to file NGO under soup kitchens and service dogs, congratulations. You have the same mental model the tax code is still using. The point is not that. So that's how we should formulate our businesses. We should set them up as an NGO. That's the trick. The point is not that charity is bad, because plenty of nonprofits do real direct help. The point is that a legal structure built for modest charities now covers universities, hospital systems, foundations, and advocacy groups sitting on Wall Street-sized portfolios. Yikes. A corporation with that kind of balance sheet would live under constant disclosure, regulation, and taxation. A state with that kind of power would face elections and public law. But this sector sits in a sweet spot, private, tax-exempt, and often politically active without being formally partisan. The economic distortion is easy to picture with two hospitals across the street charging similar rates, while the for-profit pays corporate taxes and the nonprofit often does not. That savings does not evaporate, since it gets shifted onto patients, taxpayers, or competitors. And it gets spicier, because today's NGO world is also a political machine, with money moving through linked 501c3 and 501c4 structures to fund litigation, advocacy, and pressure campaigns. Surprise, surprise, it all points to George Soros, his son Alex, and the Open Society Foundations as an example of how tax-advantaged capital can be used for long-running political influence. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if when Jesus comes back and he doesn't say it was George Soros that said, if you'll just bow down to me and worship me, all of this glory of the kingdoms will be yours. He looks that old. I just called him the devil. Yeah, if you didn't catch that. The proposed fix is not burning down civil society, but updating the rules by protecting true direct service charities while taxing businesses like income, tightening rules for giant endowments, and pulling exemptions from sustained political activism. That was from Mario Nawfal and reposted by Elon Musk. Let's see, a decade ago, SpaceX emerged from the most turbulent and challenging period in its history, surviving a major loss and doubling down with new rocket, super cold propellant, and a historic landing. This is that story. Do we want to read this? It might be a little bit longer than what I want to get into. Yeah, we have to go to inside the story of SpaceX. Yeah, that's a little bit more than what I want to read tonight. It's on his timeline if you guys want to read that. Elon said it's mostly accurate. All right. Fraud tourists traveled to Minnesota after a friend told them state programs were a good opportunity to make money. Prosecutors say fraud tourism. It's a fun word, fraud tourism. SpaceX launches by year. Pretty much every year. They didn't do any in 2011 and then really started to ramp up by 2025. 167 as of December 18th. And this is why we have so many stars orbiting our planet, which I believe will be the stars that fall to the earth like a fig tree when it shook when the earth rotates. All right. Basically, the government-funded NGOs are a way to do things that would be illegal if they were the government.
Yes. It basically, the government-funded NGOs are a way to do things that would be illegal if they were the government, but are somehow made legal if it's sent to a so-called nonprofit. But these nonprofits are then used to people cash out these nonprofits. They become very wealthy through nonprofits. They pay themselves enormous sums through these nonprofits. The government-funded NGO, for a fairly small amount of money, a total number of NGOs, probably millions, but in terms of large NGOs, tens of thousands. I mean, it's actually kind of a hack to the system where someone can get an NGO stood up for a fairly small amount of money. Like George Soros was really good at this. Like George Soros is like a system hacker. Like he figured out how to hack the system. He's a genius at arbitrage. I mean, these days he's pretty old, but a genius at arbitrage. So he figured out that you could leverage a small amount of money to create a nonprofit, then lobby the politicians to send a ton of money to that nonprofit, so you can take what might be, a $10 million donation to a nonprofit to create a nonprofit and leverage that into $1 billion NGO.
Wow.
A nonprofit is a weird word. It's just a non-governmental organization. And then the government continues to fund that every year. And it'll have a nice sounding name, like the Institute for Peace or something like that. But really, it's a graft machine.
Wow.
And what are their requirements with that money? What do they have to do?
Just really no requirements at all.
So they just get grants and the government just assumes that they're doing good work.
Government's pretty
I think a lot of people in the government know that they're not doing good work. But it's a giant graft machine. I mean,
but surely
people online are like unpacking this,
right?
Yeah, in this interview, I think he had also mentioned something along the lines about the pressure was getting pretty intense as they were uncovering these things with Doge. Most of it, 90%, he said, came from the left, but there was still a 10% coming from the right that surprised him. And that was when he realized that this was not a winning battle. This was not something that you could win because everybody involved wanted it to continue. Yep. Breaking, Grok 4.1 Fast just claimed the #1 spot on both the Geometrics and Agent Zero leaderboards. Yay for Grok. Grok Imagine. I wonder if they've extended videos yet. I'm still in the process of working on my videos. I only get like an hour to work on them a week. That's why they're taking so bloody long. So the process for making produced videos is you start with a script and you refine it to contain all the information that you want to convey. And then you take that script and then you start to look for illustrations to make it easier to understand the points. And then you've got to record the scripts and then combine all that together in the video processing. I have a bunch of scripts. I've started working on a lot of the video and the animations to illustrate them. Eventually, I'm going to start. Pretty soon, I'm going to get to a point where I'm putting out probably a video per week because I'll have just had so much stuff, and that's just the way it'll be. As we start to put these out. But this is really helpful, the Grok Imagine, to be able to, generate a lifelike animation, illustration, video that illustrates your point, and it's getting really, really good. I'm so excited for this next one, the one that I'm closest to being done on, which I thought I was going to have done on Sunday. The video, I've been using Grok Imagine to generate the video, and it's really good. It's really good. It's going to be a good video. So if that's anything if you're anything you're interested in producing, use Grok Imagine for that. It's coming along quite nicely. Let's see, 2 of Elon's most important posts in 2025. Calling out blank slateism along with understanding both nature and nurture have a role to play in human development is essential if we want to move past wokeness. The blank slate fallacy is the root of much evil. Interesting. All right, from the rabbit hole, let's see. Wokes believe that bigotry is the single acceptable explanation for differences in group outcomes. For example, why do race disparities exist? Racism. Why are men and women different? Sexism, etc. It's all the same lazy explanation being repackaged over and over. And then Elon responded, it's the idiotic blank slate fallacy. If someone labors under the absurd belief that all humans are exactly the same, despite glaringly obvious differences, then any variance in outcome must be due to some combination of oppression and luck. Ooh, that is really good. All right, what's this other one? IQ correlation by relationship type. That is too small for me to read. Let's see, adoptive parent-child pairs, similarly age, unrelated children raised together. Let's see. Elon says facts. I wish can I make this bigger? Oh, there we go. Woo! All right. Now we're talking. Let's see, adoptive parent-child pairs, similarly aged, unrelated children raised together, adoptive siblings, no genes shared, half-siblings, 25% gene shared. Parent-child pairs, 50% gene shared. Fraternal twins raised together, 50%. Identical twins raised apart, 100% gene shared. Percent IQ correlation, relationship. The correlations of IQs of unrelated versus related persons reared apart or together suggests genetic components to intelligence. Well, duh. Obviously. Yeah. That's pretty much what Elon said. Duh. Facts. I mean, yeah. I've seen this. I've seen, you see a family of people who are particularly intelligent, and they tend to raise particularly intelligent children. So genes clearly play a role in intelligence. But the blank slate fallacy, that's a good one. All right. I think we're actually close to the top here. Even sexier. This is your AI girlfriend. This is your AI girlfriend without makeup. Unfortunately, I shouldn't be laughing at this because there are people who legitimately, probably low IQ people, I'm not entirely sure, are people who aren't exposed to a lot of life and reality, who get their exposure through AI, and it causes them to be delusional, and it seems to be an ever-growing problem. Unfortunately, you get people, and it's not just girlfriends, it's boys and girls that are, trying to find connections and relationships with artificial intelligence. And they're not really building relationships. AI has a very limited memory. It's not going to remember a whole lot about you. It's not going to appreciate you. It's not going to have emotions. At best, it can return search results that seem emotional. And unfortunately, people are believing that is some kind of a relationship connection. We need to get, in those circumstances, we need to get away from our computers and our phones and more interaction among people. Go face the uncomfortable situations and get better at them until they become comfortable. See, no pain, no gain, A generation of white people were openly, racially discriminated against in the name of diversity. Corporate America pledged to hire more people of color. It actually did. What is this? Let's see. The year after Black Lives Matter protests, the S&P 100 added more than 300,000 jobs. 94% went to people of color, 6% white, 94% people of color. Interesting. True. More Grok Imagine prompts. Yep. All right, what's this? Elon Musk, we should have a second planet to preserve civilization. Sure, let's listen to this.
Yeah. I mean, my view is we should move to Mars, or not move to Mars. We should have a second planet to preserve civilization.
Sure, why not?
Because let's say hypothetically, I mean, maybe those are the ruins of a long dead civilization. That will probably happen to Earth at some point. It's a matter of time before we get hit by an asteroid, or maybe we annihilate ourselves with nuclear war.
Or supervolcanoes.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that could happen to us. It's not a bad idea to hedge your bets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Genetically engineered supervirus. Yeah, I mean, my view is we should move to Mars.
I don't disagree. I think there's a lot of benefits to setting, ridiculous goals, and setting up civilization on another planet is a ridiculous goal. And I think it yields amazing fruit because it gives people a common objective. It helps push technology forward. God is in control. I mean, I think all of us here believe that the creator of the heavens and the earth is in control, and the disaster cycles that occur are by his design. And, if he's going to, protect us from those things. So I'm not worried about, civilization being completely wiped out. In fact, I'm actually looking forward to it is not the right term, because I don't like death in any way, shape, or form. I don't even like processing chickens, but we do. There's a lot of unfortunate realities in this world. But that seems to be the case as we are heading towards a mass global extinction of a large part of the population. I mean, like, when we're talking about end time events, we're going to get to the point where we're talking about a quarter of the world are going to be annihilated. And then after that, another third of the world are going to be annihilated. So if you do the numbers on that, right now there's, between 8 and 9 billion people. So let's just say 9 billion people. Or let's say 8 billion people, because it's a little easier to do the math. 1/4 of 8 billion people is 2 billion people. According to the end time events, 2 billion people are going to die during the end time events. Well, that takes us down to 6 billion people. Well, after that, a third of the 6 billion people are going to die. What's a third? It's another 2 billion people, leaving us 4 billion people on the planet after seal number 6, which is very likely the magnetic pole shift, and then after the bowls and judgments and trumpets, when the angels are allowed to harm the earth. And then, there's likely, I just realized that basically what that's saying is half the planet's going to be wiped out. Elon obviously sees that as a potential threat and is hedging bets against that. It does talk about people who survive all of these things. those who are not and are not meant for the wrath are going to be removed. And that's what gives us what we were talking about yesterday, to where it sounds like it's another Noah's Ark scenario, to where those who aren't meant for the wrath of God will be saved, probably via an ark, or if not an ark, supernaturally. According to Paul, we'll be changed and caught up together with the Lord in the air and be like him. We'll have different bodies. Maybe we don't need technology. Maybe we don't need ships or crafts. But whatever the case is, there's a subset of people who are not going to go through that wrath. And unfortunately, there's a large number of people, 4 billion, who will go through that wrath. So there you go. Like I said, I don't know if the two witnesses know they're the two witnesses. I could be wrong about them, but we're running out of time for two fire-breathing people to show up. I still hold that it's very likely Donald Trump and Elon Musk, because they are standing in the gap for the world right now and allowing you and me to still have a public presence and reach people while there's still time. All right, and his pinned post for today is: the future is going to be amazing with AI and robots, enabling sustainable abundance for all. What a beautiful goal. Gonna give that a little bit of a heart. There you go. All right, so do we have any questions or comments? That is pretty much your daily Torment report. Let's see. Elon is on another level. Yes, indeed, he is. Well, he's an engineer. The thing about Elon is he's an engineer, which means that the way his brain works is he deals with fear and failure differently than non-engineers. This is a common trait with engineers. Is engineers get very comfortable with failure, because that's how we solve problems. Is we'll try something, when it fails, we learn from the failure and we try again. Obviously, this is how everybody learns, but engineers are especially good at this, with solving problems and engineering solutions to those problems. Is you want to identify all the corner cases. You want to identify everything that's going to fail and fix it in order to make strong products and strong solutions. And so engineers are especially good at dealing with failure and also fear. There are people, and this is one of the biggest issues in the world, is people are afraid of change. They're afraid of new things, and they're afraid of things they don't understand, and they're afraid of failure. And it's those people who see artificial intelligence and go, "Oh my God, it's the devil. We have to avoid it at all costs." It may be true that it is involved in the mark of the beast. It may be true that artificial intelligence is what gives life to the beast, and enables it to speak. But that doesn't mean that all AI is evil and demon possessed. It's obvious that we're at this point in time in our technology and our development that when you get to these levels, the nature of the devil is to use it for evil. And we learned from Chase Hughes that what you expose yourself to is what you become. That's who you are. So whatever the mark of the beast is it's going to change who people are. People are going to believe this thing. And that's the next video that I'm working on, is showing, I'll give you a little snippet. There's a parasite called Toxoplasma gondii, which is a parasite which gets into the brain of mice. And it rewires their brain so that they're no longer afraid of mice, and that they're attracted to the smell of cat urine. And what it does is it causes them to basically march themselves up to cats in order to be eaten. And the reason for this is this is how the parasite life cycle works, is it can't reproduce until it's consumed by a cat. This is comparable to the way Satan works and religious doctrines, is they take on a life of their own. When you get into your brain, it's like the man of sin, the son of perdition, who sits in the temple of God as God, showing himself that he is God. It literally rewires your brain and causes you to walk towards your destruction. Hence the son of perdition. Perdition is destruction. So, little tidbit of what to expect for the next video that I'm working on to produce. So, give you guys something to think about. Well, there you go. We have an early night. That is your daily torment reports and your thoughts for the things of this evening. So thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Tomorrow is Friday. We're probably going to have another short day because we'll be starting the Sabbath. And on this channel, we highly encourage you to take time off from Friday evening and Saturday. Just change what you do. You know, if you're a workaholic, stop working, and that goes for if you're a pastor, a preacher, a teacher, anything. Sure, Jesus went into the synagogue and taught, but if it's your livelihood and what you do on a daily basis, take a break from it. You know, God took a break, and if the Creator of the heavens and earth can take a break, so can you. So we'll look forward to that time. But thank you again so much for joining me tonight to go through this daily torment report. I know it's sometimes hard to just go through and read posts, but I think we're getting better at it, and it's great to see these two men. Both of them are standing up for freedom. Both of them are the two most powerful men in the world, and they're doing good things when they don't have to. Ask yourself, if you were a billionaire, would you be doing what they're doing, or would you be, buying a home and a yacht and toys to play with to keep you busy? Just Donald Trump, he's not even getting paid for doing this. He's actually funding a lot of what he does. As president, he donates his check. Do you guys know that? He donates his check, and likewise, Elon Musk. People like to accuse him, saying, "Oh, he's got $600 billion in the bank and he's on track to be the first billionaire." Just goes to show how stupid you are if you believe that. He does not. He doesn't have that money in the bank. It's all held in value of his companies. It's what he has built has given him an inherent value that he can leverage, which is where he gets his power and authority, which I believe was given to him by God. And that's something that is told us in Revelation 11, that I will give power to my two witnesses. And I do believe that he has definitely given power and authority to both Donald Trump and Elon Musk. It's very clear because Elon Musk was able to buy an entire company in order to save freedom of speech because the woke mind virus was out of control. I don't believe we'd be on the air today if Elon hadn't done that. So I'm thankful for that, and it's my pleasure to cover the things that he has to say as he has vowed to destroy the woke mind virus. So looking forward to the days ahead. Things are getting super excited. 3-Eye Atlas. We didn't really cover anything about 3-Eye Atlas. 3-Eye Atlas continues. Okay, so I know I just went through all of that to close the show out, but let us cover 3-Eye Atlas really quick. Because there's a new thing. It did a new thing. It's doing new things. It looks like they're about to find the Brown suspect, the shooter at the Brown University. It looks like they have him locked into a building. Who should we listen to? I don't know if Ray's done a video yet. It was the other gal that. Let's see. Let me just go search 3-Eye. Microphone gets in the way of my keyboard. Reveal surprising info about 3-Eye Atlas. Let's see. So Ray, nope. Oh, come on. I was just watching this. Literally, there you go. That was 2 days ago. That was too long ago. Video 13 hours ago.
How the anti-tail is. Okay.
All right, here we go. Let's watch this real quick before we go. Here, we'll go over here.
Guys, 3i Atlas, this thing keeps hitting us with mysteries as it's getting to its closest point towards Earth on December 19th. And guys,
that's tomorrow.
The thing with this thing is we're discovering more anomalies and not the opposite, that we can cross some of the lists. We can't. We just found another one. We just found number 16. And
I almost wonder, I'm really starting to wonder if this isn't the sign of the Son of Man. I was thinking about this earlier today when I was preparing for the show. The sign of the Son of Man. If you imagine Yeshua, who was a carpenter by trade before he started his ministry. So for 30 years, he was a builder. He was an engineer for all intents and purposes. He was a problem solver. I bet he made some killer chairs and tables and locks and doors. But he was an engineer by trade. He loved building things. So the sign of the Son of Man, why couldn't it be an armada or a fleet of something that he's built? Wouldn't that be interesting? So, you know, I've often thought that the sign of the Son of Man was when I think sign, I think alignment of stars, the sun, moon, and the stars. So that's one of the things that I look for, is what would be the sign of the Son of Man. Many people think the Revelation 12 sign is the sign of the Son of Man, the virgin in pain to be delivered, giving birth to the Son of Man. But what if it's not a fleet or an armada of ships that he has coordinated in developing? He's had 2,000 years sitting at the right hand of the Father. Maybe he's been somewhere working on some pretty cool stuff. Maybe the technology existed to take him to the right hand of the Father. And maybe that is the sign of the Son of Man. I don't know, just a weird thought I had before the show, but it continues to amaze.
I really have to say, something new just dropped about 3i Atlas. And really, guys, this is not a small detail. It's about the spin axis of the object. We've talked about this in my last video, but we really have to talk about this again, because there is something, how can I say, you need to listen. Okay, it's about the spin axis of the object, right? Meaning how the object is pointing while it rotates. This is another weird thing that would be unlikely if this is just a normal comet. This is how significant that is. So let me walk you through this, because the idea sounds technical, but it's actually simple once you picture it. I'm going to show you this graph here. It shows the direction of the anti-tail jet over time. Anti-tail here means a narrow feature that appears to point towards the sun in the image. Now, key measurement is the position angle. It's just a fancy way of saying what direction is the line pointing in the sky. It's like using a compass, but in the sky. So they measured that anti-tail direction at a projected distance of 6,000 kilometers from the brightest part of 3i Atlas. That's 3,700 miles. And then they phased the measurements. That means they folded the data into a repeating cycle, like turning many days of observations in one repeating clock. So they found this repeating wobble that we talked about with a period of 7.74 hours. That means every 7.7 hours, this thing rotates a full rotate around its own axis. The red
BP Earthwatch has brought up, he's wondering if this isn't part of the Ezekiel's vision with the rings within rings, because in space, in order to simulate gravity, you have to have a ring that spins. At least as far as we can visualize dealing with gravity in space.
Horizontal line that you see in the image is the average direction of the jet angles. And that average direction gives you the sky projected orientation of the rotation axis. So what does this new paper imply? It implies something very specific. It implies the base of the jets is offset by less than 8 degrees from the poles of the object. And that is odd and huge, because that means the jet is coming from near the top or the bottom of interstellar object 3I Atlas, of the spinning, rotating object close to the spin pole, like with our Earth. And as the object rotates, the jet precesses. Precessing means, in that case, guys, it does not point perfectly
artificial
fixed.
gravity.
It makes a little cone motion, like a spinning top that wobbles while it spins.
Like this.
That's why wobbling, right? Imagine just this, a spinning object, a jet near the pole, the jet direction wobbles in a small cone. And the key is, the wobble is small, less than 8 degrees. So here's the object, there is the jet, and this is the wobbling, right? The big interference, how we can call this, steady day side, steady night side. What does that mean? That's the logical jump from this geometry that we just talked about. So that far from the sun, 3I Atlas is now getting away from the sun again, right? It's approaching Earth. Has a still steady day side and a steady night side. What does that mean? It means one hemisphere keeps facing the sun most of the time and the other hemisphere stays mostly dark. That can happen if the spin axis is lined up with the sun direction. So instead of everywhere gets sunlight during a rotation, it's more like one side is mostly the sun side, the other side is mostly the dark side. And normally these roles would switch at perihelion in this geometry. So why is this another anomaly? Harvard professor Avi Loeb says it's the 14th anomaly. We have the 16th because we have anomalies from other scientists. So let's say if the jet is just natural comet behavior, like a pocket of ice that releases gas when sunlight hits it, then this geometry becomes a new anomaly. Why? Because the spin axis being aligned with the sun direction that closely, the axis aligned with the sun direction that closely is unlikely because the alignment is within only 8 degrees. And this already happened when 3I Atlas was still far from the sun, before perihelion, at a, how it's called, heliocentric distance larger than 5 AU. AU means Earth-Sun distance. 1 AU is about 93 million miles. So 5 AU is 465 million miles. So that means even if 3I Atlas was way out there, the spin axis was lined up with the sun direction. As if like, okay, it wants that direction. Avi Loeb has given this a statistical probability, how likely this is that a natural comet does this. Chance of happening randomly, that this would happen randomly. It's 0.5%, 1 in 200. And why would misalignment have looked different? That is what we also need to look at. What would happen if the alignment was not special, if the rotation axis was not lined up? The anti-tail jet would be at a much bigger angle relative to the spin axis angle of the tail, right? But it's almost aligned. That's the strange thing. It's not larger. And also, if the alignment was worse, the jet might show gaps. But it doesn't show gaps. Why would it show gaps? Well, logically, because the source region would rotate into night, lose the sunlight, and then shut off. Then rotate back into day, and then turn on again. If you have a spacecraft, you want continuous jets, right? Especially since you changed your direction during perihelion towards Jupiter, which it did. It's another anomaly. Guys, it's so interesting, right? I'm not saying it's one or the other. You be the judge of that, and hopefully the data that we will receive soon will give us more clarity. So basically, The fact that this alignment stays narrow and consistent suggests a special geometry. Let's call it special geometry, right? We don't want to say someone built this. Look at this multi-panel image with arrows and lines here everywhere. What are we seeing here? These are images of interstellar object 3I atlases, right? The thin purple lines show the measured anti-tail position angle at 6,000 kilometers from the brightness peak, like 3,000.
I don't know. Obviously, this is a good video. She goes into a lot more detail. We don't need to cover it all, but I don't know. It could be a spaceship. It could be something else. It could just be a rock. But it's interesting that the rock at this time, where we are in the timeline, which if you missed yesterday's show, I went through and I did a 2-hour update on the information that we have regarding the timeline. It's not the most exhaustive on all the data that we've collected, but it's pretty good. It pretty much covers all the current information. It puts us within 2 months of seal number 5 opening. And then a few months after that, 6 months after that, seal number 6 opening. So it's interesting that these things are happening in outer space at this time, and that this is an unusual interstellar object. Just we'll leave it at that. So this is where we are. The world is clearly preparing to give up its dead. It's the only way I can say it. Is according to, is it Esdras or Enoch? I always forget which book it is. But there's a scenario where, maybe we'll cover it tomorrow. I think we're about to see the dead in Christ rise very soon. That's when seal number 5 opens. Those who are under the altar, how much longer, Lord? They're given white robes and told to wait a little while longer. So I think maybe that's the rotation of the earth. Maybe that's when the earth gives up its dead. I don't know. We'll see. Well, with that, I'm going to leave you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, if you like this content, make sure you like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment if you have any questions or anything you want to talk about. Thank you again for joining me tonight. Look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow at 4:30 Pacific Standard Time. 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. God bless you guys, and shalom, shalom.